Really good meeting. And to answer your direct question, we have a deal.
We have a deal, a potentially huge historic moment. Biden meeting with a bipartisan group of senators today on jobs and infrastructure and saying they've reached a deal. But there's a catch. It's got $600 billion for bridges and roads, but leaves out a ton of what progressives want. Nothing on climate change, childcare, education, social programs. Biden is vowing he'll only sign the deal for bridges and roads if there's a separate deal for all the other things.
Look, the bipartisan bill from the very beginning was understood there's going to have to be the second part of it. I'm not just signing the bipartisan bill and forgetting about the rest that I proposed. In tandem, let me emphasize that. And in tandem, we need physical infrastructure, but we also need the human infrastructure as well. They're a part of my overall plan.
Here's the thing. The Senate has been talking about infrastructure first, reconciliation second, for a larger spending bill. The danger is that Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema would vote yes on infrastructure and then no to all the other stuff that actual Democrats want. Pelosi says she won't allow a vote on a Senate infrastructure bill until after reconciliation passes.
There ain't going to be no bipartisan bill unless we are going to have the reconciliation bill. Plain and simple. In fact, I use the word ain't.
Don't start no bill, won't be no bill. Joining me now is former Obama pollster and MSNBC political analyst Cornell Belcher and Washington Post political reporter Libby Casey. Libby, I'm going to start with you. Look, this is a good moment for Joe Biden. Clearly, he's been listening to his critics. I want to play some of this sound and get your thoughts on the other side. Tonight, progressives calling on Biden to go faster, to go bigger, to go harder, and to do it alone without Republicans, if need be.
I know there are some of my party who discouraged me from seeking an agreement with our Republican colleagues, who said that we should go bigger and go alone.
Somebody's listening. Libby, clearly, look, Joe Biden hears the criticism. Joe Biden hears what Democrats want, the desire to sort of push forward, to not go for this sort of magical golden fleece of bipartisanship. But within the White House, are they satisfied that this deal on infrastructure speaks well for future deals they might be able to make? Or are they just trying to get points on the board because they know they need to build up as much as they can before we head into campaign season next year?
Well, President Biden has told the American people that he can work across the aisle. It's a lot of what he campaigned on. It's a lot of what he talked about and trying to show Americans the sense of unity at a time when America is so very fractured. So this is an opportunity for him to stand there with Republicans in front of the White House and say something we hardly ever hear, which is we have a deal. Now, at the same time, there are progressives in his party who have big priorities. And so they're going to be pushing for that other track to keep continuing. But here's the important thing. This infrastructure bill could pass with 60 votes potentially, if you can get more than these 10 to 20 senators who say they like what they've put together here, along with the president. Okay, you've got that one. On the other hand, you've got this reconciliation bill, this huge package that has so many Democratic priorities. We're talking about things like extending the child tax credit. We're talking about environmental policies. We're talking about what Democrats see as a potentially transformative legislative agenda. But if they do it through reconciliation, they only need the Democrats on board. They only need that 51 votes. Thank you, Vice President Harris, they can say, to get them over the finish line. But of course, they have to get Senator Manchin on board, Senator Sinema on board. Some of those faces you saw today in front of the White House, the Democrats have to be together as a bloc. So President Biden has to talk to the Americans. He has to talk to a couple of those senators who won't necessarily join with them for that liberal spending package. And then he's also got to talk to some of the Republicans.
Cornell, there are a number of senators, obviously, who are saying, look, we need to make sure that we have this bigger package. We need to make sure that we're actually following through with Democratic priorities. I'm going to play some sound from two of those senators and get your thoughts on the other side.
Way too small, paltry, pathetic. It has to be combined with a second, much more robust, adequate package to be deserving of a vote.
We have to have the whole thing, not just cleave off a little piece of it.
Bigger, badder, faster, stronger. Everybody wants a bigger bill. Cornell, from a polling perspective, right, just straight empirical numbers, if the Democrats aren't able to get through a reasonable number of things through reconciliation, is that actually going to harm them down the road? Because that's ultimately what this is going to boil down to. Can they convince people like Sinema and Manchin and maybe even some other Democrats that if you don't get reconciliation, it's going to hurt you at the ballot box? Is that something that can they make that argument at this point?
Well, it's problematic because the people on the other side who would be making the argument against the Democrats don't want any of it. So that means they don't want any of it. So they're going to attack the Democrats for no. I think it's problematic in that way. Though, look, I think what you're saying is politics 101, right? And it is take what you can get when you can get it and then come back for more. And of course, those senators are going to say we want more and we want bigger packages and we want climate and we want all these other things in it because that's politics. They'd be crazy not to, right? To put it on the table and then have it and then negotiate with it. But I got to tell you this. That image of those bipartisan senators standing with Biden, that, my friend, is political gold. And it is because it's all that Americans want, and what they believe in Joe Biden is that he's a guy who can work across the aisles. And Lord knows I work for a guy who struggled to get anywhere with Republicans and Mitch McConnell. And this guy, is standing in front of the White House with these senators, in a bipartisan way around a really big. And we can argue about how it's not everything in it, but it is a big infrastructure bill. And as I'm sitting here in Washington, D.C. with bridges falling down on 295 here in Washington, D.C., Americans are going to take whatever infrastructure bill they can because they know it makes us more competitive and they know it makes their lives better. So I think it's a big victory, political victory for President Biden.
Cornell Belcher, Libby Casey, thank you all so very much for your time.